Hello, my name is Emily May. I am a dance writer, editor, and critic, currently based in Berlin, and I graduated from Trinity Laban's BA Hons Contemporary Dance course back in 2017. I now contribute to cultural publications across Europe and America, and alongside that, I've also set up Terpsichore Magazine, which is a social media platform and now podcast celebrating female dancers and choreographers and women in dance throughout history. I set this up as a lockdown project from my bed during the first quarantine in 2020. I wanted to do it because at such an unprecedented, difficult time, I thought it was an important way of reconnecting with the dance industry and also generating positive, inspiring content when we were all facing such difficulties. I found it very interesting that despite, from an outside perspective, people seeing dance as a female-dominated or stereotypically feminine art form, it's actually very difficult for a lot of women to come to positions of power, whether that choreography or controlling a dance company, etc., that they are very rarely pushed or encouraged towards these positions either. So I thought that this was a really great way of spotlighting women doing amazing things in the industry. Then decided to expand the content and create a podcast, and that's been really amazing to talk to such inspiring women and to share these conversations, because that was a motivating factor about doing a podcast rather than just writing as I normally do, because I have such enjoyable conversations with people and interviews to inform my writing, and I thought that a podcast was a great way to share this and hear people speak in their own words and their own voice. So some of the amazing guests that I've had so far have included Laura Capel, who's a dance writer I really admire. She writes for the Financial Times, The Guardian and the New York Times, among others. Also Ellen van Schulenburg, who is a lecturer at Trinity Laban and who I loved learning Cunningham technique from when I was there. It's also really interesting to hear from them about the women, the female forerunners, who have inspired them, because I think in contemporary dance we can get so caught up in trying to push forward and be original and new that sometimes we don't pay enough attention to the history and whose shoulders we stand on. I kind of ended up being a dance writer, I guess, by accident. When I started at Laban, I had the idea that I wanted to perform or choreograph, but then when it came to my second year, I started writing about dance for theatre websites. The whole attraction for me at first was so that I could get free tickets to shows that I couldn't afford to see due to being a poor student in London. But over time, I began to really fall in love with the way that I could translate the very physical art form that I was studying into words and into a concrete text. And so from that, I just kept seeking out as many opportunities as I could to develop this skill that I'd fallen in love with. I did the resolution review scheme at the place. After that, I did a variety of internships, and that's how I ended up here in Berlin, which I think has been a really interesting opportunity for me to connect with the European dance scene and then also be able to write about my experiences in Berlin. It's quite a difficult profession to choose. Similarly to dance, you have to constantly pitch yourself and constantly seek for new opportunities or have your eye out for interesting stories or pieces to review. But it's also really exciting to be able to go and see so much work, talk to amazing people. That's one of my favourite things I think about being a dance writer, is having amazing conversations, and interviewing is my favourite thing, because it means you can just have really great conversations and hear from some of the most inspirational people in dance about their practices. For me, one of the highlights or most valuable experiences has been being part of Springback Academy, which is a scheme that runs alongside Aerowaves Festival, and it selects 10 emerging dance writers from around Europe to be mentored and write alongside the festival Airwaves Spring Forward. So I did that in 2019. Also, there is the Springback Magazine, which I contribute to, and is edited by Sandro Roy, who's an amazing editor and writer himself for The Guardian. And another, I guess, getting my first piece published in the stage in print was very much a big highlight. It was about the Michael Clark exhibition at the Barbican. And then aside from that, I guess one I would say is probably interviewing Maria Laribeau for a magazine in America called The Brooklyn Rail. I interviewed her when she'd won the Golden Lion at the Venice Biennale, and It was just quite an amazing moment to interview someone who I'd learnt about during my first year of Laban and really enjoyed learning about during our Ways of Seeing module. I guess would be very simply to just start writing about dance, to go and see as much as you can, and then to try and just practice writing about that, describing what you see, forming an opinion. I have jokes with my friends that I'm queen of the unsolicited email, because even at Laban, I wanted to perform a piece of choreography I created at an exhibition, and I just thought, oh, I'm going to email and see. I thought it was crazy at the time, but they came back and they let me do it. So from then on, I've always just been a strong believer. If you want something, just try and find the email address, and obviously not nag them too much, but just give it a go. And the worst thing that's going to happen is you won't get a reply, or someone's going to say no. So that was my top tip, I think. So the pandemic has affected my practice in a variety of ways. Nearly every article or interview I've had to write over the past year has had to have a pandemic frame or some kind of caveat paragraph talking about the fact that we are currently in a global pandemic. However, it is also really heartening that nearly everything that I have still had stuff to write about, and I think that proves how creative and adaptable dance artists and the cultural industries are, that they're still really pushing to create and produce things during such a difficult time. Another way it's developed how I'm working is that I've ended up doing a lot of moderation via Zoom. So I work with a few dance festivals, including Aerowave Spring Forward and Sound Dance Berlin Festival and Czech Dance Platform, on creating post-show talks and recording artist talks and interviews and discussions to be streamed alongside their online festivals. Although it's been a very difficult time, it's also had some positives and some interesting developments. One of the most influential things I did during my time at Laban was writing my dissertation in my third year. And I wrote this about 1920s Berlin and dance and culture during the Weimar Republic. And I really valued having this time to tuck myself away in the library after doing a really intense ballet class or something, and use the amazing resources they have there to read up on Mary Wigman and Valeska Gert, and also other practitioners who weren't in dance that you could relate to dance practitioners such as Fritz Lang from film, and also other visual artists such as, who I now have on my walls, is George Gross and Jean Mamen. So that I felt like was a really formative experience, and I had amazing dissertation tutor Susie Holmes, who really pushed me to develop my ideas. And Laban teachers just in general, whether it be through choreography or in technique class, were always referencing other art forms, and that's really, I think, shaped my career in terms of that when I write, I also like to write about visual art, or try and see things, not compartmentalize art forms too much, but seeing the connections between them. I remember Ali Curtis Jones, our teacher, telling us about how important it was and how useful choreological studies could be to help you find a way to talk about dance or to write about dance and put it into words for people, and to try and express yourself as a choreographer to speak. And of course, I'm not using Laban notation, I'm not writing my articles in Laban notation, but choreological studies in general helped me find a language to describe dance pieces or to write about dance pieces. When we did a lot of having to speak about our work and to deliver speeches and explain what we'd done, and I feel like this element of public speaking really helped, because now doing the podcast and also interviewing people, and also now doing more work on moderation and post-show talks, I feel like having this experience of having to get up in front of a crowd of people and speak, which I think for dancers can sometimes be one of the hardest things, harder than having to do a grand jeté or something, that was really helpful as well.